Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 646. If you're listening to this on the podcast or the free Hypnosis app, this is being broadcasted live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, and maybe another place that I'm not aware of. But I hope you're doing well and great, and in this episode, we're talking about breaking free from your past. You see, your past is going to dictate your future, right? It is your perception, it is your association, it's your meaning attached to the events that you've been through. And that meaning will cause you to see the world differently when it comes to your future and also what you do in the moment, right? So we've got to get our mind in the right place. We've got to really understand, what is it about our past that is getting in our way? Well, if we think about it like this, if we just break things down, because I had this thought a while ago, and I'm going to get into this thought, a little epiphany I thought of. But if we just break things down, the only evidence that we have of what could happen is only based on our life experience. Have that as your framework today. The only way that I can frame or predict my future is based on the evidence that I have collected and acquired through my past. That is the frame of reference I want us to really go into. Because you have probably gone through many significant types of events. So I call them like significant emotional events. So SEEs, that's how I kind of think about it in my mind. And based on the quality of those significant emotional events, it will cause you to have an association to, right? So let's just think, can you remember a time when you brushed your teeth on Tuesday in 1993 on April the 2nd? Well, the chances are you probably wouldn't remember that, right? Because it has no really big meaning attached to it. There's no big association to it. So it wouldn't really be very meaningful to us. But then there are other events that you've gone through which will be very significant. They're the heartbreaks, they're the times where we didn't close the sale, where we didn't get the relationship, we didn't get the promotion, the business failed, the economy crashed, someone did something to us, someone said something to us, and that negative association to that event can and most probably will dictate how you see your future. They're the ones I'm talking about today. You see, I imagine it, for those who are listening to the audio version of this, what I'm doing right now is I'm making my hand a fist, and consider that as being your memory. That's your memory. Now, if it is like brushing your teeth, there's nothing attached to it, but if there's something significant right there, you're gonna have emotions attached to it. So I'm putting like my hand over the fist right there, and it's just like kind of building up that energy. So the more times we go through these negative, significant emotional events, the more that emotional charge builds up. So you may have one big event and then subsequently other events which are similar to that. And after a while, your unconscious mind will start to categorize and collect those events to make a meaning out of it, whether it be the one event or whether it be the subsequent many events, things which are similar. Let's just say, look, you have a relationship. Let's do a work one for a change. Actually, we do work ones all the time. Let's just do a health one. Let's mix things up. Let's just say that you have anxiety around your health, and like where it be going into a relationship, going into work, so we can include all of them. That the first time, it may have been big, it may have been small, that emotion of anxiety or fear attached to it. But then as you go through another event which is similar, your unconscious mind is like, I remember this event or this kind of event because I had that big event in the past. Then the unconscious mind, through the recall of that memory and the emotion, starts to go, well, it must be my time to get a little bit nervous, a little bit worrisome or doubtful. So then it starts to recall those feelings. And then not only do you have that in this, the real emotion, but you're pulling in all the past stuff as well. And then if you go through other events in the future, which will then become your past, ultimately, that energy will build up. And after a while, it can also bleed out into other areas of your life. So sometimes you were anxious in a relationship. Now it's in your work situation. Maybe you're doubting yourself and you're like, oh my goodness, what if my boss calls me out today? What if I fail? What if I mess up? What are people thinking of me? And then suddenly that anxiety and that dread builds up in your neurology, and it causes you to not perform in the way that you wish. So those past events begin to dictate how you will respond in the future. Now, I hope that makes sense, because it's really important to get our head around it, because we are making our mind aware of what's really happening. You see, those past events are like chain of events, and they're stacked up with these emotions, and they build up, and that negative energy begins to expand and expand and expand, and before we know it, we are doubting ourselves. We don't believe in ourselves. We feel, oh my goodness, where's the money going to come from? How am I going to get that promotion? How am I going to run my business? How can I, for example, get out on camera and start promoting myself, doing live streams or podcasts or whatever it is, right? It starts to build up that charge, and that is something that we've got to get our mind around. Like, we've got to realize, number one, our unconscious mind is designed to try to figure out your present and your future based on the evidence that you have collected over the years prior. That is the big thing we've got to be aware of. We've got to get our mind into that place of, okay, this is what my brain is doing. I'm not going to allow it to keep on running this unconscious program as if it's going to be my reality for my future. So think about it. If you then break this down, we've gone through, let's say we're 35 years old, or let's say 35. And maybe we've had this issue for 20 years, right? So since we're a teenager type of thing. Think about all those events that we've gone through, which have been collected and expanded into our future. Like how we've just kind of collected them unconsciously. And then think now, if that person or you were 35, imagine going another 20 years in the future. Are things going to get better, or are they going to get worse? Or are they going to stay the same? Well, the chances are, if you could still do the same thing you've always done, it's probably not even going to stay the same. It's going to get worse. Why? Because that collection builds up. That collection of your unconscious mind is like, I've got that bit of anxiety. Let's stack that one up. Let's generalize it into this situation. And before you know it, it's destroying health, relationships, career. And then we start to live a lifetime of regret. And we do not want that regret. We do not want to look back over our life and going, do you know what? I didn't live much. I didn't love much. I wasn't that purposeful. I wasn't really doing what the things I wanted. I missed out on my dreams, my possibilities and potentialities. That is not where we want to be in our future. We need to be able to stake right here and right now. Decide, declare that I am ready for more. So let's break down as to why your unconscious mind. That's the what and the how, right? That's what happens and that's how it happens. But why does it happen? Well, the why to me is the positive intention of protection. You see, that one big event or those small subsequent events which happened later, your unconscious mind was trying to prepare you for the future. It was trying to warn you that this has happened in the past. And if it's happened in the past, I need to give you the fear to be aware of the possibilities. So let's say the intention is positive. The fear, horrible. The anxiety, horrible, because it stops us in our tracks. We don't do what we have to do, and we start to feel paralyzed by that fear. We start to feel like an imposter in who we are. Think about it. On the one hand, you're like, look, Joseph, I really want to change. I've got all the understanding, the logic. I know about that. Like, Joseph, you've been speaking about this forever and all those things. You've been doing this for a long time, or I've been going to therapists, reading books and all the things. You know quite a bit, right? You've learned quite a lot of information. So on the one hand, you can logically understand it. You can break it down and realize the unconscious mind's trying to protect you. You may even reflect on maybe like the degrees that you've got, the successes, or on paper, like, look at my life, it looks pretty good on paper. But no matter how much we consciously feel this, no matter how much we consciously understand what we've got in terms of resources and abilities and skill sets and qualifications, on the other hand, the unconscious mind is saying, no, do not do that. It is scary, it is fearful, it is worrisome, it is lonely, and we gotta stay in our comfort zone. That is the most uncomfortable place to be, but your unconscious mind has fallen into the trap. So, think about it like this. You are projecting your future in a distorted, deleted, and generalized way, in such a way that it's bringing in these emotions of unwarranted and unwanted emotions. It is causing us to be battling ourselves, feeling like that imposter, but we know intentionally is trying to protect us. We know it's trying to do a good job. And the key point here is, in order to make this change, you need to gather different evidence. You get that? Think about it. In the past, your past experience, you've been collecting evidence. The events that you went through, the emotions that you felt, you collected evidence. That evidence is a predictor for your future. It's a predictor. It is not true. It is subjective because we live life subjectively. So the events that you've gone through, the evidence you've acquired has actually molded that subjective viewpoint of the event, the future, and who you are as a person. That is where we don't believe in ourselves. That is where we feel not worthy or deserving or capable or of value, all of those things, and it ties into those emotions. So in order to break free of that, the collection of evidence, we have to collect new evidence. Does that make sense? I sure hope it does, because that is what we have to do. Now, how do we collect new evidence? Well, we've got to find other examples. We've got to consider other things. We need to get help from other people, a professional. We got to read other things or do other things to break free. And sometimes reading isn't the best way, right? Because you're still reading subjectively. You are still deleting aspects. You're deleting those based on that past evidence. So you need to look beyond just the normal ways of doing things. Now, you could look at other evidence that is not your evidence, that is someone else's evidence, to prove to you that there's another opportunity. Let's just say, based on your past evidence collecting, you don't believe that you're worthy or good enough. And if you don't believe you're worthy and good enough, you then have to find other counter examples where other people have been able to overcome the conflict that you're going through, and even more than that, have become successful because of that. You see, that is new evidence. You may not believe in it straight away, but you have to look something beyond yourself to make that change. You've got to let go of who you are to who you're about to become. And by doing that, you have to look for counter-intuitive evidence, things which feel uncommon to you. You've got to look for evidence that allows you to go, look, I'm going to break free of this. I'm going to look for someone who's done this before repetitively. I'll just keep on repeating it. Who knows? But you got to keep on looking for that new evidence, new upgrades, new epiphanies, new insights, new ways of being that goes to show that there is a possibility. That possibility gives you the opportunity to then start to do something. Now, in the previous 2 episodes, we did the hypnosis, and the one prior to that was about setting up your new year. And we said, look, we got to assume responsibility, ultimate responsibility for where we're heading. Where we go, look, this is my life. I'm not prepared to stay the same. I'm not prepared to stay in pain. Because whatever we kind of trick ourselves, we are tricking ourselves with even some of the pain. Because sadly, it is worse than we think. And I'll tell you why it's actually worse than we think. Number one, we're used to the pain that we start to become accustomed to it. So we feel like this is the normal. Feeling sad and anxiety is normal. It is absolutely not normal. It may feel like it because it's your familiar zone, your comfortable zone, but it's not really helpful or good or feels good at all. And you might be saying, well, Joseph, I do feel the anxiety, I do feel the fear, I do have the self-doubt, but even still, it's actually worse because you become accustomed to it. And that is one of the traps that we fall into, because if we become accustomed to it, what happens? It feels normal. We then start to expect it in our future, which then goes back to the evidence collection of our past. So we have to break free of that. We have to assume responsibility. You gotta go, look, this is my life. I don't care what people are telling me. I don't care if I failed or so-called failed in the past. I'm gonna learn from this. I'm gonna grow from this. Because I believe there is another way of being out there. There's a part of me which is ready to break free. Have you ever felt that feeling on the inside? Maybe you've watched a movie. Maybe it's an inspirational one. Maybe you witnessed something. Maybe you saw someone on a YouTube or a video or a personal development person. It could literally be anything. It could be a class of some sort. And you go, I don't know why, but I know there's that part of me which wants this. There's a part of me wanting to break free. There's a part of me just waiting to shed this pain. There's a part of me waiting to just release it. You don't believe in it, but you know there's a little bit of a knowing. You know that there's a knowing within you that is ready to break free. But you're like, this is my time. I don't want to keep repeating the same old things I've always done. I don't want to keep on repeating being the same person, the same results. And you're sick and tired of that pain, the anxiety, the worry, the fear. So you're like, this is my time. I'm going to assume responsibility for who I am, where I'm heading, and I'm going to start to collect new evidence. I'm going to look for the opportunity rather than the scarcity. I'm going to break free from the prison that I built in my mind and start to tear that down and go, I'm ready for more because I am worth it. I might not feel like I'm worth it. I might not feel like I'm good enough. One thing I always say to the people who ever come into my main program, and it's this: you have to decide over your fear. You have to decide over that evidence collection. These are all data points that you've collected over time, and you've got to go, even though that's the present evidence, it doesn't have to be my reality. It doesn't have to be the truth, because it is a subjective level of evidence. It's events that you've gone through, it's the things that you've done, the things that you've experienced, the way that you've approached life, the way that we've maybe become a victim or having reasons as to why we are like we are. But look, here's the thing, that is not who you are. I say that all the time. You may feel like that is you, but you have to decide over the fear. You've got to decide over the past evidence and look for something bigger and greater, because this is your time. You may not believe in it. You may not know that you're good enough or capable or worthy or deserving and all those things, but you know there's a part of you wanting to break free from that pain. There's a part of you waiting to break free from that stress. This is your opportunity to make that decision. I don't care where you find that solution. You might find it within the app. You might find it in your experience of working with someone one-to-one. You might find it like, you might go, oh, I really resonate with Joseph. I'm going to attempt to go and enroll in this program. I'm going to apply for it. See if we work out, see if we are a good fit. Because I experienced the imposter syndrome, I feel like I experience anxiety, worries, and doubts, and I'm sick and tired of talking about it all the time. I'm sick and tired of gathering the evidence, which is just proving me right in being wrong. Right? That evidence is proving me right in being wrong, and as in not getting the results that we want. I don't care how you do it. As long as you start to wake up to the new reality, the new epiphany, the new way of being that gives you the choice, because there is always a choice. There's always a choice to choose differently. You got that opportunity right here, right now. And yes, it takes time. Sometimes, like my program, within 8 weeks. That's what we do. other people, other systems, I don't know. But let's just say, even if you did it by yourself, even if it takes a year, it doesn't matter. Do the work. Do the good, great work that you're going to give up that past. You're going to decide a new reality because it's important to you, because it is worthy of your desires, because you are worthy of your dreams. Think about it right now. Right here, right now. Think about, what is your dream? Where do you want to be in 1 year's time? Where do you want to be in 5 years' time? Dream with me. Every one of my clients, I'm like, look, let's dream together for a second. Where do you want to be? What is, not just for small dreams, not the small things, not just to get by, but where do you really want to be? Where do you want to be in your wealth, right? Where do you want to be on your wealth? Where do you want to be in your relationships? Where do you want to be in your career or your business? Are you there right now? Probably not, because we're dreaming, right? But now add another 10, 20% to that, because you're much more capable of doing so. Let's say you want to earn, you're thinking in your mind, I'd love to earn $88,000 a month. Well, let's make it $10,000 a month. Let's stretch you a little bit. Let's get into the meaning of it. Let's get into, this is what I'm worth. Make it a little bit scary. Go all in on it. Because you going through life being accustomed to that past negative evidence-based system, all those negative data points, is just going to give us in a place of dread and anxiety. And in the end, you're going to look back, you're going to wake up one day, maybe in the middle of the night, and you're going to go, oh my goodness, I wish I decided something different. I wish I decided there was another way of doing something. I wish I began to decide over my fear. You see, most people, especially with people I work with, fear dictates their future. Fear dictates how they are right now. And I'm going to say probably most of the population, fear is the one thing that governs their world, which governs their reality. It really is. I really believe that to be true. Where we call anxiety, worries, and doubts and all those things, but really it's fear. But fear is illusionary to me. Fear, we've got to enlighten. I really believe, look, there's my personal truth. My personal truth is, and you may resonate with this, you may not, but I believe the truest form of the opposite of fear is love, right? And by love, I mean love for self, like to know, and if you're like, oh, Joe, that's a bit out there, I'm not really in touch with that love stuff yet. Well, don't worry about that, because love gives you the I am enough. The love gives you I am worthy. That is the value of self. That is the deserving of self. That is the way of being. So we got to realize that most of the time we are operating from fear, and that fear is deciding our present and our future based on that past evidence. But maybe we start to decide over the fear, which would be something like love. Or decide in your mind that actually, even though I experience this fear, I'm going to decide on what is right. What is right for me in my future. That is what I love about the mind, that you can sculpt it, you can adjust it, you can adapt it. It is bendable. It is moldable to your liking if you choose. Yes, you got to get out your own way. Yes, you got to get expert help to be able to help you sometimes. But whatever it is, decide over your fear, decide over those past data points, decide over that past subjective evidence that we've acquired, and wake up to the fact that unconsciously you don't have to be ran by it, so that consciously you can wake up and decide something better for yourself. Because it's not just about you, by the way. It really isn't. Because when you change, the world changes. The nature of you being in this world right now makes it unique. Think about that. Your presence, your energy is so unique in this universe, in this world, it has to, by nature, make the world different. So when you change your mind, when you go all in on that, what is right, just over the fear, you actually change the world as well. You change the nature of reality because you are the subjective reflection of it sometimes. Have you ever noticed that we attract things by reflecting it back because our mind is the reflector? That it's like a mirror that we project and we receive that back to us. That is why when we're anxious, we get more anxiety. That is why we're fearful. We see more fear in the world. When we don't believe that we're good enough, we see more opportunities which prove that we're not good enough. And we go, look, I'm not going to go for that opportunity. So we're reflecting back that evidence, but now it's time to decide over your fear. Do what is right, do what is good, and realize that to break free of the past, you've got to find new evidence. Evidence which will support your future. Evidence that will give you the freedom, so therefore you change the world because of that. But by nature, you have to. Even if we just break it down to family, relationships, our career, our business, our customers, our employees, everything will therefore have to slightly change by the nature of you changing. So you got to ask yourself the question, are you going to decide on what is always happening and keep repeating it, replicating, and gathering more negative evidence? Or are you going to decide on something new today? Decide on what is right. Decide on what is good for you. It's your choice. So let's make a decision. And of course, if you ever need help to let go of your issues, you can go to josephclough.info/talk. You can go ahead, book a call with us. You will then fill out an application form. This is an opportunity to go in our fully customized program. We'll get clear on where you are in terms of what you want to let go of. We'll find out exactly what you want to achieve. We'll then get clear on what's getting in your way unconsciously, because it is unconscious, and then we'll come up with a plan which will solve that issue. If we can find that and you're a good fit for us and good fit for our customers and our clients, we'll say yes, you can go ahead and enroll. Of course, there's an investment, of course, but you've got to make sure you're a good fit first. So go ahead and apply at josephclough.info/talk. Fill out that application. It prepares the team to figure things out. And then we can transform within 8 weeks. And of course, if that's beyond your means right now, that is fine. There's no shame in that. Sometimes we've got to we've got to be resourceful. That is another quality, resourcefulness. But whatever it is, just take on what I said and start to apply it. And whatever you think you are, you're always more. So with that, my friends, I look forward to speaking to you in a future episode. Many thanks and goodbye.